Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone across the globe joining us today. If you have any audio issues, please send them in the Q&A tab and we will assist you. If you have any questions for the presenters, please submit them in the Q&A tab as well, and they'll be answered at the end of the presentation. Slides and recording of this webinar will be posted to acquia.com and also sent to you via email within the next 48 hours, so be sure to look out for that. So today's webinar is on Nestlé Web Content Management and why partner with Acquia for Nestlé. Here is the agenda of the webinar. So first, the panelists will talk about the journey for Nestlé and Acquia, what happened and what's next. Then our expert will go through Acquia's differentiator and will illustrate his words with demonstration. And finally, you'll learn why it's beneficial to partner with Acquia for Nestlé. So here are our speakers you'll listen to. So first, it will be Eric Fullerton, our lead product evangelist at Acquia. For our expert is Raphael Khaiat, master solution engineer who works for Nestlé since the beginning. And finally, Cedric Demeulenaere, area vice president Southern Europe, will explain to you why to partner with Acquia. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Eric.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining today. I'm going to start our presentation talking a little bit about kind of the how we got here, right? The journey that Acquia has been on with Nestlé, and I think it'll provide some really good context, and it'll also help frame up the opportunity that is to come and help identify why we are going to show the demonstration and talk about some of the things that we'll talk through today. So really, the reality is that we're not here by chance. We've been building a massive foundation with Nestlé, and there's a lot of great opportunity that's here, and we're really excited about that. And we're excited to have folks, and so many folks from different really partner organizations that we've worked well with in the past on the line to talk through this. And it's really been a 5-year journey for Nestlé and for Acquia. And I'll take it through, it's kind of like a 2 to maybe 3-part journey. So I'll start by talking about the first part of the journey, and that is around CMS standardization. So essentially, this is, again, probably 5 years ago, and Nestlé was really looking to standardize on CMS. This is a pretty common thing that we've seen. And there, I think we can probably all explain and understand the value of why you'd want to standardize in a single CMS. It's going to help you increase adoption. You're able to kind of share innovation. That was something that Nestlé was really excited about when it came to Acquia and Drupal specifically. And that was one of the reasons they decided to work with us, excuse me, on this CMS standardization project, was the ability to simplify and share their innovation across their digital properties. So adoption for CMS, and when it comes to Drupal, I'm sure folks are very familiar with that. We can certainly answer questions at the end on Drupal, but there's a lot of value around the sharing. And for them, they have a lot of global brands, as everyone knows, and they were actually able to build a version of Drupal called Lightnest, which helped them create and share that innovation. So a team had built that distribution of Drupal, and then was able to leverage and to use that. And of course, just some quick background. I'm sure, hopefully, most of you are on the call and familiar with Acquia, but we are the #1 contributor to Drupal. Dries Buytaert, who founded Drupal, created Drupal, founded Acquia, and we've had a lot of great work in the Drupal world. So for us, we're seeing a lot of validation, not just in the concept of standardization of CMS, but open source as a value proposition. And another area for Acquia and Drupal and Nestlé around CMS standardization was around multi-site capabilities. This is something that was really important for Nestlé, and it's around that global governance and making sure that you have global brands. You're creating some freedom for them to build sites and properties, but still making sure that they're standard, but enabling different teams to work effectively and efficiently. So that was kind of the part 1 of the journey, and things were good. And the next part for them was kind of an additional value. So that was almost, in some ways, almost a proof of concept. It was a project that they had worked on. And because of the way that they had seen that working, the decision was made to move from infrastructure as a service into platform as a service, or PaaS. And this is something that, for those of you who may not know, Acquia does very, very well. And the goal here is to try to have some level of governance model where you can manage multiple different sites, but also to increase your agility. And we kind of talked about that in phase one, but this was that kind of larger scale rollout, multiple sites being adopted in this space. And another important and critical aspect of this is this concept of compliance and security. I don't think I need to explain to folks about the importance of risk mitigation, but whether you're operating in certain data privacy regulations, you're operating in different regions, you have lots of different brands, compliance and security, and that's something that Acquia has spent a lot of time and investment on to make sure we have the best practices there. But the big value for platform as a service was really around this flexibility. We talk about open and open source a lot with Acquia, and that leads to not only the agility we talked about to build new sites and manage new properties, but also the flexibility. And this is something that only Acquia is able to do, which is offer a single site in terms of the management as platform as a service, multi-site, and in every single geolocation. Now you can imagine for a brand like Nestle, that was incredibly important for them, which is if there's certain sites they want to operate and manage in this way, others they'd want to do in a multi-site fashion, but being everywhere was something that was particularly critical and important for them. Now, I don't think I need to spend too much time talking about the size of this opportunity. The opportunity is really great. We know that Nestle has a very vast reach in terms of the amount of brands, the different markets they're in, the different sites that they're in, and it's been an interesting journey for us to watch and see this account and the way we're working with them grow in such an exponential fashion. You know, we've been in this account every day, and Raphael, who you'll hear him give the demonstration, and Cedric and Mark have been in this account every single day working with them, and we've been part of that great journey. And that's why we get to talk about what's next, right? The next part of this journey with Nestle. And there's really kind of two components and pieces to the what's next. The first is around low-code site building, and I'll talk a little bit about why they want to do that. And the other is around personalization. So if the first part is, right, I want to standardize on one CMS, then I want to operationalize more effectively, moving to platform as a service. How do you continue that simplification and sharing of innovation while also doing some optimization? And that's really where part 3 comes in. And that's kind of the next journey that we're looking to and we're about to embark on with Nestle. So the first is around this concept of low-code site building. And the value is, of course, being able to increase different adoption. You're able to free up resources to innovation. It makes things easier. So simple things like changing a paragraph on a page or changing the font type, something that you'd be able to do without having to know Drupal or to know code. But it also increases your time to market. So if you have lots of smaller sites or micro sites, you're able to build those sites really quickly and efficiently. And in terms of the development resources or Drupal resources, really attaching them to the highest value projects or sites. And that also creates the resources and the adoption. So when we're thinking about this the amount that it takes to manage all these digital properties, it's not about when you think about the entire scope, it's how do you minimize the impact for those smaller sites and then maximize the impact and the investment on the larger ones. And personalization is an area we've seen a lot of growth in, a lot of investment towards, and we're seeing it, I think, across the globe. Really, we're seeing, and across industries, this is what we're starting to see in the past several years. And we have a personalization solution. I'm actually going to get into it in a little bit more detail for that's fully optimized for Drupal, helping you get the right content to the right person. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the opportunity, because obviously there's a lot of opportunity for Acquia, and there's a lot of opportunity for Nestle, and there's a lot of opportunity for partners. But I wanted to just pause quickly and talk a little bit about what we think that opportunity is. And it's really around expanding beyond the traditional ways that we would engage with partners like Nestle, being able to do more services and more strategy services, things that are going to be more impactful to the business. And that's where something like personalization and overarching digital experience is really important. So I think you just saw there, we had the only open digital experience platform for for Gartner. We're a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for digital experience. This is an evolvement of the Web Content Management Magic Quadrant. And what this means is that the way we're thinking about web content management is more than just how do you host a site and how do you create content. It's how do you do things like low-code site building, manage data more effectively, do marketing automation, or more specifically for the use case that Nestle is talking about, do personalization on a wide variety of their different sites. And this is something that when you look at those who are working with Drupal, not only is no one else who works with Drupal in the leader quadrant, no one else is even part of this conversation around digital experience and something, no one's in the Gartner quadrant period when it comes to Drupal. So when we talk about being the Drupal experts, not only are we the contributor to Drupal, but we're the ones who are bringing Drupal to enterprises. And I think that's something that's really exciting for us, and it means that there's a lot of opportunity. So I'm going to take a couple seconds and dig into each of the two aspects that I was talking about earlier, and then we'll actually prove those out in a demonstration. So this is the part around low-code site building, right? We have a single CMS. Now we're operating in platform as a service. And I know that I have lots of different digital properties, and how do I manage them more effectively? And this means that you have to think about beyond hosting. It's about optimizing the entire life cycle of a site from build to launch. And this means that we don't want it to take 3 to 6 months of developer time, but how can you offload that? It's this concept of sharing digital work, because traditionally website development takes a lot of time and a lot of expertise. And there are this is a very simplified way to think about it, but it's code, it's design, and it's content creation. We think of those 3 components when it comes to the development of a site. And of course, that's very simplified. But the design part, when we hear from our partners and we hear from customers, it takes about 30 to 50% of the entire implementation time. So what we really wanted to look at was how do we shorten that time? How do we make that simpler? And how do we kind of eliminate some of the time that it takes to actually do the design of sites? So not only ourselves, but our customers and our partners can focus on higher value things rather than doing the dev work on an individual paragraph and an individual page as part of a microsite. You're building out an overarching strategy for managing multiple sites at scale, or how to create content more rapidly, or maybe starting to think about something like personalization or CDP. And for us, it's this concept of low code that really simplifies that work. We have a product, it's called Cohesion. You're going to see it in action. I'm not going to spoil it too much because the demonstration really speaks for itself. But really what we're trying to do is cut that design time essentially in half. So what that helps do is kind of 2 separate things. So the first is around multi-site frameworks, which is something that Nestle, as we talked about, is very invested in and interested in, because you want to be able to maintain that governance and be able to control those multiple sites, but also free up innovation and resources across your organization. Now, when you have a low-code approach, you'll build a lot of those design elements, and they'll do so with partners. We have partners working with lots of great customers doing this today, where they'll build out this design framework. So at the beginning, it maybe takes a little bit of time to build out that design framework, but over the course of time, it's going to make the organization move so much faster, and it's going to be so much less expensive. You can see we've done a little bit of research on kind of the time versus the cost compared to a traditional multi-site framework approach. But it's not only that, it's also easy to build and to manage and to update. So not only is the build process and the design process essentially cut in half, but it's about offloading and sharing digital work for folks that maybe aren't super technical. Now, this doesn't mean that they're fully responsible or have control. IT does still maintain control of these different sites and different properties, but there's a shorter learning curve and simple updates, things like making sure that you're able to update paragraphs or update spacing, colors, very like baseline components, and making sure that there's different parts that within a workflow you can manage and have approval processes on. And this product, it's called Cohesion. You'll see it is something that we've started talking to Nestle about. We're seeing a lot of momentum around, but we're also seeing it work live. So we're seeing lifescan.com was a great example of this, and they actually did kind of a test on Cohesion versus the traditional version of how they were kind of building sites. And what they found after this test was it was 80% less rework, not necessarily work, but rework, right? In terms of managing their efficiency. So that was something that also helped kind of help their organization be more efficient, but also helped eliminate those bugs and errors that we talked about. So the result for a business is more innovation time, new projects. When you shorten the time to build a site, it means you can do more things around digital experience, work with different modalities, try to be more responsive to new business models that organizations are building. So you're, as a partner organization, you're investing more on higher value, really highly strategic products and projects rather than just something that maybe is doing only dev work. And dev work's really important and it's really great, but you want to balance out the different, the scope of the work that you're trying to do and deliver. I'll talk about personalization quickly, and then I'll hand it over for the demonstration. I hope there are folks on this line who are familiar with personalization. I try not to throw a ton of statistics about this because I could certainly share many of them, but the reality is when done well, personalization works. And this is something that we've seen validated from analysts, we've seen validated from customers and from partners. But if you do it properly, and this is a stat from McKinsey, who's one of the organizations that I tend to trust, and it's that, if you can do it properly, you can essentially deliver 5 to 8 times ROI on marketing spend and have a significant increase in the way you're able to lift sales. So long story short, if you do it well, it works. Now, we have been working on website personalization for a long time. We do so with a product called Acquia Lift, and we've made a lot of great improvements. And we've worked a lot with our customers. We're working with Nestle now on some of their sites on personalization. They have some big plans to do personalization on a much higher percentage of their sites. I think personalization is something we're seeing more people are investing in because it's more important now. I know things are kind of changing every day with coronavirus and COVID-19, but one thing we did see in terms of trends was a lot more focus on how do you take that personal engagement and try to bring that online. Because when you couldn't engage in person, being able to do at least some level of personalized touch or personalized engagement online was something that we saw leading brands and really every brand across industry was really missing. So we've been having a lot of productive conversations about that. When it comes to Lift, we can talk a lot about personalization. You're going to see it, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time. But what I will say is that one of the things that's really exciting for Nestle specifically is that it's the only platform that is optimized for Drupal. What that means is it simplifies the way you create content in Drupal. It can automatically leverage that content. It can use all the Drupal tags that you would build when you're creating a different website or digital experience. And it's something that helps specifically with multilingual capabilities. And it helps use and leverage Drupal's multilingual capabilities to automatically render communications and personalized content in the right language. So not only are you giving the right message, but it's in the right language, which I think is particularly important when it comes to personalization. So overall, we can talk about some of these benefits, but we'll share some examples and some stories, and I can talk about it in the Q&A. But we're seeing lots of different ways that customers are approaching personalization. So it's this crawl, walk, run approach. And I just wanted to highlight some actual physical examples of ways that people are using personalization on their sites today. And hopefully for folks who maybe haven't done it before, they will see and kind of understand what some of these examples are, or some who have been working through personalization can kind of see where they could really drive and deliver some value. So the crawl stage is where you really don't have to have any new content or have any new data, but it's really the types of initial personalizations. There may be a little bit, they're less effort and maybe varying impact, right? So it might not be the most impactful personalization. It's not a one-to-one personalization, but there's a lot of value in being able to just target specific groups and being able to kind of go from no personalization on your site from one to many or one to some. And some of those examples like geolocation or visit frequency or device and system, I actually can talk about those in a second. But then you want to get to that next level of, all right, so now based on what people are doing on my site, what events they're completing, are they watching a video? What's that next action from there? Are they clicking on something and downloading something? Did they make a purchase? So taking the action, so a little bit more data and information. And the last phase, which is kind of this run phase, we think about integrating with different systems like CRM and CDP and trying to understand from a cross-channel perspective what they're doing. But initially, there's a lot of value, like I talked about, in those crawl personalizations. So I wanted to go through a couple of them, and just so you can kind of see some of the examples of what they are. So geolocation, one of the most common use cases we see, and it's going to really help personalize homepages. You could promote upcoming events, new brands, new products, any type of community activity. You could provide up-to-date information. A lot of times we're seeing regional specific offers or promotions for individual products. And one of the great things about Lift is you have this flexibility to personalize any part of a page in any different content type. So you can have a really personalized experience depending on the user or depending on the respective audience. Anonymous to known is a really important one. When we're thinking about ways we communicate in other channels, maybe we often know who these people are, whether it be on email or of course in store, we know who they are. But when they come to their site, it's a little bit challenging to do that. So being able to drive them from anonymous to known, and then once they're known, Lift can actually sync up all that data from the other sources to actually provide a more comprehensive profile. But maybe it's something like you're treating returning visitors a certain way that have already been to the site. They're getting a different type of homepage banner, or individuals who are coming from marketing promotion or email based on their UTM parameter, you're able to connect those things. And making sure if they're in a specific interest category, then you're able to personalize that experience and eventually get them to create some type of action, which is going to result in that them becoming a known visitor. And then of course, page views. This is something that I just wanted to show and talk through. Is at a really high level, we do have some really good customer stories that we can talk through at the end of this. But I really want to talk about generic examples because Nestlé is such a large opportunity and such a large organization that these are the 3 types of personalizations that we see people being really successful with out of the gate. And you can really personalize any part of the homepage based on a visitor's past views. So it could be specific content types. Maybe it's around a local business. Maybe it's around a new product. Maybe it's around a product they looked at last. Maybe they've gone to the same type, the same site or the same content a couple times in the past 30 days, or maybe even in the past year. But it's also a great way to promote relevant content. We're seeing content creation is more important, I think, than ever. And engaging content, things like blog posts, something that we actually do at Acquia. We organize different individuals based on their browsing type and based on their product and interest type, and then automatically recommend them the right content, the right blogs, and the right experiences. So I think I hopefully wanted to set up the demonstration that you're about to see, talk a little bit about the really exciting journey that we've been on. I'm happy that we can talk through it in the Q&A, but there's been a lot of amazing progress here, and the opportunity for Nestlé and for Acquia and for the folks that are on the line is tremendous, and we're really excited about what's to come. So I think we'll actually show, and Raphael, I'll pass it over to you to actually show a lot of detail and specificity into some of the stories that I just told.
Well, thanks, Eric. And as your part, it will be a 3-step way as well. So as Eric mentioned, the Acquia platform is not just a way to host Drupal websites, but a fully managed platform to allow customers like Nestlé and others, and you, our partners, to deliver fast, secure, scalable, and data-driven web experiences with hopefully the minimum of effort and maximum flexibility. So let's jump into it. The first step, obviously, is the site management. It needs to be scalable, yet flexible enough to ensure that we can meet Nestlé and other customer needs based on a single governed approach, as Eric mentioned. And I'm sure most of you already know that, but to achieve this first goal, we've created the Acquia Cloud Site Factory. It's designed to ensure that both the IT and the businesses team work together on a global and governed approach. The Site Factory provides the IT team still a secure, scalable, resilient platform to manage all the sites at the same time. By leveraging a unique code base to power all the business sites and applications, the central IT teams will streamline their development, deployment, and security processes. For example, on a Site Factory platform, Nestlé runs monthly security scan on one master site and one of their live websites, instead of every single site as they used to do before, which reduces a lot the cost and the times for all these tests. And while leveraging this unique platform and code base, the Acquia Cloud Site Factory provides businesses team still something flexible enough to create and manage all the different sites on the platform by providing the non-technical user an easy-to-use dashboard that we'll see in the demonstration to be able to deliver rich and different experiences thanks to that governed approach. As we can see here on the right-hand side, the Site Factory dashboard that we'll see in the demonstration, by the way, it provides a single view of all the sites of the project organized in groups to centralize the accesses and and the accesses to the sites more efficiently. And on the left-hand side, we can see the idea of what a templated approach means. And when creating a new site through dashboard, user will be asked to select a template. And a template is not just the visual and design of that website, but the full architecture and typology of that application. It can include content types to use, functionalities to enable, third parties to integrate, of course, the design and the UX, but much more. And this is where it gets interesting. And obviously the complexity varies depending on the project, but we have seen a lot of different use cases from a different customer to answer a lot of different needs based on the same platform, from corporate, country, e-commerce website, and all that kind of things. And that's thanks to the idea of having one unique code base sitting on the site factory, containing all the features, functionalities, and design that will then be enabled or not, depending on the selected type of sites, as we will see in the demo. Speaking of demonstration, let's jump into the first one. So here you can see the site factory dashboard. And for those that are already familiar with it, you can also see the new UI that we have reworked in a more modern design. And on this page, I can see some sites that I've been given access to. And I can filter them quickly to find the site I'm looking for in case I have many sites. And on the left, I can see all the different groups and subgroups I've been given access to. And it's really helpful to ensure which site the user can access. When on the platform, there are hundreds of sites in dozens of groups, but I can see only 3 of them with this user. And when going into my group, I can then see the list of users that can access this group, as well as a list of optional subgroups and sites within them, giving me a great access to all the sites on my platform. And to create a site, if I have the right permission, I just need to click on this Create a New Site button, which will bring me to a simple form to fill, where I just need to select a technical name. Of course, we will later on put the real domain name for deploying the site and publishing it, choosing the stack, which is the platform on which I want to deploy the site, and select the template. And the template is called Installation Profile Inside Factory. And for those familiar with Drupal, it does refer to the Drupal Installation Profile capability, which is basically a cooking recipe to create a site, including all the features and functionality to enable. Like we said before, it can be for corporate, country, e-commerce, marketing website, etc. When I click on this Create a Site button, all I need to do is wait for 10 to 20 minutes for the site factory to create the site for me. When it's done, I will get an email saying the site is ready, and it will appear in my dashboard. It's as simple as that. User with the right permission will also be able to duplicate sites to start from a live existing website instead of a new one. For example, when you want to duplicate a Spanish country to create a Mexican country site. Same thing, I need to just put the technical name for now and choose the option if I want to do a full site clone, meaning a full copy paste of that website, or if I want to do what we call a clean copy, which basically will copy the site, but remove all the contents and user, creating for me an empty nutshell of that site ready to be populated and work on. And once the site will be ready, would it be the created one or the duplicated one, it will appear on my dashboard like the other ones. And as you can see, there is this login button on each of the sites that will allow me to access all of these sites directly. It really simplified the user management story by just giving access to the site to the people that will then won't need to connect independently to each of the sites, thanks to the Site Factory single sign-on capability. As you can see here, I just click on the login button, and I'm now logged in on my site that I will go back to it for the next piece of the demonstration. But the idea is that simple. But that's just the first step, as Eric said, where we start working with Nestlé on this Site Factory approach to build and deliver all their different sites. But obviously, we want to do better than that. And we want to help our customers and our partners build sites faster in a more efficient and flexible way, and as well to give the contributors a better tools to create the content and the pages. And as you understood from Eric's presentation, Cohesion is the tool to do so. It provides a way to create the user experience, the theme, the design, directly through the user interface without Drupal knowledge, would that be front-end development knowledge or whatever, without deploying code, and it can be done directly through the UI by webmaster, familiar with CSS, or by front-end developer guys. It also gives the contributors and the content creators better tools to build more rich and complex user experience directly on the site with a simple drag and drop interface that we'll see later on. And because we are thinking about industrialization, Cohesion fits perfectly in the factory approach, because everything is thought about components reusability and configurability, and we'll see that as well. But the idea of Cohesion is really to be able to work on the whole front end directly through the interface, from basic settings like CSS grid, fonts, and colors, to global HTML elements like buttons, headings, paragraph, all that kind of usual stuff, to create more complete components that are basically an assembly of these global elements and a lot of different fields that we can use to create rich components for the different area of the page. Obviously, everything needs to be then created in templates for the different content type, for the landing pages, for the views, and all the type of content that we can have in Drupal directly again through the front end. And once everything is ready, this is where the contributor will have the ability to build the pages themselves using all the rich components that have been created through Cohesion. And we'll see that in the demonstration as well. But the interesting piece when we talk about component approach is, as I said, the reusability and the configurability. And by creating only one configurable component with Cohesion, the customer can then use them in very different ways to fulfill very different requirements. And would that be on the same and existing website or on different ones? And it means that by having a strong governance in place with a limited number of components, the customer can then create a lot of different experiences. And it's provide a lot of flexibility and as well decrease the time to market to create these sites and the complexity of having thousands of components in one platform. But we can go even further in the industrialization process. And Acquia Cohesion via the Style Guide Manager will allow you and the customer to define, once the site is created, which element of the predefined design can be overridden for the site by using this simple UI with a form on the left and the real-time preview on the right. It means that once I've created a new site on the factory, then I can customize that site very efficiently in a few clicks and without asking any technical user. And I know it won't break the validated brand guidelines for this project because I'm only selecting elements available in this form. So let's see how it works as well. So here I'm as well connected to the site from my site factory via the login button. And this site has been entirely created with Cohesion without any Drupal theme or code. As it's a short demo, I don't have time to show everything, but the idea, as I said in the slide, is really to be able to theme everything from basic elements like color palettes, the fonts, the responsive grid settings, and all that, and with the breakpoint and all this type of stuff, as well as the HTML elements like the body, the headings, the form buttons, all these kind of things that you have everywhere on your website. And then we build components. And as you can see here, there are a lot of potential components that we can create, like hero banner, layout component, media, cards, sliders, accordion, and sky is basically the limit. But as well, template component, like the header and the footer. And if we look at the header, we can see that everything I had on my site is available here. So the logo, the menu, the search box, the user menu, the language switcher, all these kind of things are available in this area. And all I had to do to create that is drag and drop some elements from the sidebar on the left. And you can see that there are a lot of elements we can use to create these components. So as it's a short demonstration, let's now use this component by creating a rich landing page. And you can see this, the user interface is quite similar. I have this sidebar on the left where I can use all the components we've seen in the backend, like hero, text and images, cards, sliders, etc. Or I can use what we call a helper, which is basically an assembly of these components already combined together. So for example, with this landing page, I have this hero banner, some text, etc., directly pre-filled for me. But I can obviously remove some and add some to make sure that I create the exact landing page I want to create right now. In this case, I'm removing some components. And what I want to do is basically at the bottom of the page, a two-column area with some text on the right. And I will have a form on the left where the user will be able to research for location of my site in my site. And above that, I want even to put a dynamic component, which is a slider giving me access to all the location on the site. And let's say I want to reuse that page later on, this same type of template, and I can create the helper right from here and just say, okay, next time I want to recreate a page like this, I will just reuse that component. If I'm saving the page right now, I will go back to the front end, and Cohesion will show me all the different components with dummy content for most of them, or for the dynamic content, it's already pre-filled, like with the location here or the form. So all I need to do as a contributor right now is just go into the edit mode. And then I can just say, I can just populate the content for each component. I click on the button, and all I need to do for the hero banner is just put the title, for example, the Nestlé Partner Webinar, and select the background image. I could obviously upload a new one or just reuse anything existing in my Drupal site. By applying, we can see that Cohesion will reload my components to just show me how it will look like. But we can go a lot further than this with configurable components, like I said before. For example, this component has a text on the left and image on the right. If I edit the component, I have the same type of interface where I can select the text and the image. So let's just select an image for now. But I can go further than just filling the content. I can go to that layout and style area where I can define if the image needs to be on the left or on the right of the text. And by just doing that, I'm using the same components, but it's displayed in a very different way. Obviously, for the purpose of that demo, it's a very simple example, and we can do a lot more complicated configuration for the components than this one. But you get the idea that we can create components that can really change the way they work depending on the configuration that the contributors will do on the page. This is where the governance around the components start to be very interesting. So that was the first two steps. We have created some sites on the factory. We have styled them as required for the business. We have given contributors the right tools to create better and rich page. But the next step is to, as Eric said before, is to go further and try to understand how the visitors are browsing the website, what they are looking at, and provide them a personalized experience and in real time. And basically for that, we have a tool that will basically understand the behavior of the visitors, but as well interact with third-party tools like a DMP, a marketing automation tools, e-commerce engine, or whatever, to improve the level of data that we have around our user. And that's the goal of Acquia Lift, as Eric said, to transform unknown visitors into an understood and possibly known audience, to adapt the content proposed to them as close as possible to what they are looking for on the site or what we know about them. And the way it works is quite simple. It's based on 3 pillars. On the right-hand side, we have Lift will gather basically as much data as possible from the visitor, with its consent, of course, but from content that has been read to actions like filling a form or any other interaction of the site, everything will be saved in the profile manager. On the left-hand side, Lift will allow any content created on any of the sites to be reused in the personalization context, which is quite interesting because I can say that content coming from one specific product site being pushed on my corporate website if I know my user is interested in that. And to do so, we have the experience builder that we'll see in the demonstration, which basically will allow the non-technical marketing people to point and click on the website to define where the personalization should happen, what type of audience should it be targeted to, and which type of content they should see. And creating a new personalized area on any page will take only 3 simple steps that we'll see in the demonstration without any technical knowledge of Drupal or other technical knowledge. And Acquia Lift will allow our customer basically to manage personalization campaigns from a single dashboard that we'll see, showing them directly the results from all the campaigns running on the different sites to be able to evaluate the success of them and to improve them with time. And multiple types of personalization can be created, from basic A/B testing to content targeting, where a specific content is shown for a specific audience, to content recommendation based on other visitors' data as well. Segmentation can be as easy or as complex as needed, while still being created through the UI as well, to define all the different criteria we want the users to match before falling into the different segments. And Lift will also provide all the right analytics and metrics to measure the success of the campaigns and improve over time the experience of the visitors following the walk, crawl, walk, run approach that Eric mentioned before. So let's see if it's as easy as advertised to create a new campaign. And for that, I'm still continuing on my same website. And all I've done in between is basically publish the page we were working on and put a link into the menu to make it accessible. And now we want to just add a personalization campaign on this specific page. So for that, we go to the home screen of the homepage of our Lift campaign management, and it shows me the list of all the campaigns I'm already running on all my different websites. Lots of great information in there that unfortunately we don't have time to look at, but basically having the number of campaigns, the number of personalized area, the metrics and reports that we could look at in more details later on. But let's see if it's that simple to create a campaign. So by clicking there, all I need to do is select what type of campaign I want to run. As I said before, we have A/B test, targeted personalization, content recommendation, or we can do a combination of these three types by using the mixed campaign type as well. Let's stay simple for this demo. And all I need to do is go through a three-step form, giving a name, giving a description to my campaign, deciding on which site I want to run the campaign, so on this demo webinar website. Potentially, I could as well select a duration and a start and end date for that campaign, but let's skip that for now. Then I enter the most interesting part of this process. This is where I will decide the different rules. In here, first I need to select the audience I'm targeting. And for example, on this demo website, I can target people around that are interested in startup content types. All I need to do is select that segment from the list available and click on the Build button. It will load my website directly within Lift, and I can navigate to the page where I want to actually build some personalization. In this case, this Nestlé webinar page. Let's say I want to personalize this area with the image and the text. And for now, because it's a new page, there is no personalized area. So I need to create one. All I need to do is click on this point and click option and highlight the area of the page I want to personalize. And it could be any area of the page. I can click, just select the name I want to give to this area, and that's it. Now I need to just say which content I want to use for the audience I've selected before. In this case, I have a prepared block around startup that I will select, but obviously we can do a lot of things like searches and others. It brings me a preview, so it's fine for me. I can just click Save and Continue, and it will bring me back to this page where if I wanted to add new rules, that's something I would be able to do. Let's just go to the last step, which is basically a summary of what I've done, creating a target campaign on the Nestlé webinar site with a start and end date and with one rule for so far. I click on that Publish button, and basically that's it. I've created, with this three simple steps, a personalization campaign on my Nestlé webinar page. So what I want to do now is show you, for the end visitors, what it would mean going through the website for the first time. Here I'm loading a new window, and if I go to the Nestlé webinar page, I can still see the default content. And the reason is because basically Lift doesn't know yet which type of information I'm looking for. I'm brand new. But by just doing some clicks on the website and specifically going into content that are targeting startup founder, Lift will start building my profile with this known data. And if I go back to the Nestlé webinar page, we will see that it will now, instead of pushing for me the default content, push me the content I've been worked on in my campaign's creation. Again, it's a very simple demo where only one click has an impact on the personalization. But as Eric mentioned, it can be the case for simple geolocalization, for the crawl approach. But obviously, we can define more complex segments and more complex use cases where a lot more clicks and interaction from the users are needed before we can do actual personalization on the site. So it was a very short demonstration of the site factory, cohesion, and Lift capabilities that really help our customer deliver fast, secure, and scalable and data-driven web experiences with hopefully the minimum of effort and maximum flexibility, which hopefully I managed to show in this short demonstration. And of course, we have a lot of other tools in our portfolio to deliver better experience. Some tools focusing on improving Drupal sites like the Content Hub or Edge to secure and improve the performance, but some others are very more oriented around the marketing teams and trying to understand better their visitors, their customers, like Agile One, which is our CDP offering, or Motic, which is our marketing automation and user journey orchestration system. And the good thing is that they all work happily together on top and side by side with Drupal, making sure that we can have the best of both, the best of breed approach with all these tools and growing with time. I would be happy to have more discussion on the details on this part, and obviously there is the Q&A section for that, but for now I will hand it over to Cedric.
Thank you so much, Raph. Hi again, everyone. Happy to see and to read known names as long as new names. So we will try to cover the topics that are useful for everyone here. So basically, why partner together? Let's make it short on this specific slide. We at Acquia are highly committed to work with you partners. You probably already heard that 1,000 times, but being really open and really focused on partner and on leveraging our partner business is key to our DNA, because we are coming from the open source market, and so we are highly involved in the community, including the partner community. So that means that for some regions, for instance, for Southern Europe, we do nearly half of our business via partners. That's more than 50% of our business is done via partners. So we absolutely need you, and hoping we can give you value, but you can be sure and you can count on the team, including the senior management team, to be really focused on developing business with you. Next slide. So basically, what's in for you? That's probably what you want to understand here. So basically, for every dollar we make on subscription, you would get roughly $5. It's always complicated to give exact numbers, and I will share with you the list of the contacts and the people on this webinar that you can follow up with and discuss in more details. But roughly, from a single site project that can be very small, because we have a specific offer with Nestlé in place, so we can address small site with low traffic, up to very large, big sites, quite complex, and that really runs from like 50K to 1.5 million, and that we have experienced that. And then, of course, you just saw what is it we do on Multisite. On that specific project, again, it can be really big. Of course, personalization, we discussed around personalization and using this module that we call Lift. The average value is around 200K, but it can be, again, bigger based on the line of business we work together. One point that we didn't mention extensively on that specific webinar, which is something we are developing with Nestlé at the moment, is customer data and working on customer data. This used to be very large projects for you guys. That's really a very big opportunity for you to chase, and we will be really happy to work on that together. And of course, the interest is to build a multi-project roadmap, of course, and then you can leverage this business globally. So basically, what it could give you also to pitch and to push Acquia within Nestlé is that you could get upsell and cross-sell opportunities. Mainly what we do at the moment with Acquia, as you saw it, is that we're moving from like 10 years ago, hosting business with additional services. We don't do that anymore. And we don't do that anymore, unlike our competitors, for years. What we do now is definitely we push and we offer a global digital platform. And this global digital experience platform will allow you to upsell and cross-sell, to move from a cloud, let's say Drupal cloud, then to a marketing cloud, where there is a very different topic to discuss with your customers. So that's, and the way we built our products, for instance, the Site Factory, makes it easier for you to upsell, because it's as easy as that to create and ramp up new sites. And one site for you means extra dollar to build it. So that's really what we thought would be interesting for you. And of course, what we see from the account is that the market is quite fragmented, which means that there is no there's not one I would say provider that has it all. There is place for everyone. And of course you will get our team support. So I'm not going to spend too much time here. There is a bunch of people that are dedicated to the account. The main point is maybe, Raph, if we can move to the next slide. You will get a point of access to I would say attack and address the account together. So for the one of you that already know the team, you know that it is run commercially by Marc Saint-Cyr, that is obviously on the webinar. But if for the ones on that webinar that are pretty new to Acquia and are pretty new to Nestlé, your main point of contact, if you have any questions and you want to engage with us, is Sophie. So Sophie Cambero, you can see her details here, and it will be very easy to follow there. So basically, she's really dedicated to run the sales and technical governance with you and to align that together. So it usually starts from a project, and then it moves to a multi-year program that we develop together. Next slide. And that was the point here, which is that we need to work on a GTM plan together. Sometimes we've been working jointly on one project, which is fair and good. But then if we want to achieve larger business and develop business and also win deals together, we really need to move to the next level, which is to build a proper GTM. So that's aligning the sales team and training the sales team. And we have things to help. And also in terms of technical enablement. And also make sure that we work together, including our professional services team. It should not be seen by you as competition, but really more like a reinsurance and a help on specific topics. For instance, a marketing cloud offerings, which are, I would say, more specific. Next slide. This one we are going to skip, but basically it's like a good snowball. The more we do together, the more we get familiar with each other, and the more efficient we are. So this one is simple. Next slide, maybe. So I'm going quick so we can still get time for Q&A. And again, Sophie will be your focus point and entry point on this one. But we have a partner program in place, okay? From, I would say, foundation partner to obviously really where we are when we are global select partners. There is a mechanism that is in place. We have specific ways to handle that for your benefit, and all that is really aligned and structured, so you could benefit from that. I would say day one. Next slide. Same goes with sales enablement. So there is a lot we provide to you and to your sales team in self-service, free of charge. So starting tomorrow morning, or maybe this afternoon if you want to, you can train yourself, and you can train and you can help develop your pitch and your value prop around Acquia. And of course, also there is lots of additional ways to do it together. Our teams, including myself, will be more than happy to spend time with you and your teams to repeat what we've just been doing together, and we can do that in very specifically in more depth. So lots can be done to discuss. Next slide. So that's the example with the academy that you saw. You can do it. All is accessible online, and really here to help you. I would say build your pitch. Next slide. And that's an example of the technical enablement. So maybe Raph, next slide. Just know that and understand that there is a plan for technical enablement that goes up to obviously certification, and all that is planned and built and available for every product that we sell. Okay, so you would have that plan. You could put your team into it, and then you would get that certification. And when it's done, of course, it's better for you to execute well on project, and of course also to be able and stronger in terms of pre-sales campaign when you can justify to leads and prospect that you are very strong with Acquia. Next slide. That was me done. So I think that we were a little bit short of time, but questions. There is one question from Vinicius Rodriguez, which is a bit technical. So maybe Raph, you can help me on that one. How are you approaching cohesion components maintenance when they are already being used? on the final sites when the same component have been deployed or imported on multiple sites? Are you doing the maintenance on a centralized site and then importing them through the interface for the mini sites that use it? That's a long one, Raph.
Sure, and I'll try to answer it quickly. So if we have other questions, we have time. But the main idea is basically what I talk about, the governance of the components. And basically the idea when going into a multi-site approach is to build what we call a starter kit, which is basically a library of all the components available and that sits in the code base, which means that if I want to do some modification to some components and I want to make sure that I can deploy them on all the sites of my platform, I can just export that through the UI of Cohesion and re-import that in the code base and deploy that so that every component will be updated at the same time. So every website will have the new version of that component without breaking anything, of course, but that is as simple as that. And what we've seen as well is that in some context of multi-sites, you can also just export and import components through the UI as well, making it really easy from one person saying, oh, I've built something new, let's try it on another site. You can export that, import it later on. But the idea is really around having the governance around the components. This is where the whole value in a multi-site approach makes a lot of sense, and make sure that you have always all the sites up to speed with the same level of components and the same level of configurability on them.
Thank you so much, Raphael, for that answer. Any other question from you guys? No? So I probably run the fastest presentation in the industry ever, just to make sure that everyone was able to ask questions. So maybe any other question to discuss? No? Okay then. So I think Marussia, maybe you want to close the event?
Yeah, sure. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending. You received that follow-up email with the recording of that webinar, and you have a link with a survey because we want your feedback on the content and the format because we always want to improve. So thank you to the speakers and thank you for the attendees, and have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.